Hello everybody. So today we are going to discuss about problem-based learning. Do you know what really problem-based learning is all about? So basically, the core idea behind problem-based learning is about solving problem using unique ways as a part of learning process, which means students learn by solving problems. But then again, why should teachers choose problem-based learning strategy to teach their students? Here, I'm going to tell you why. First of all, problem-based learning is underpinned by the constructivist approach. It fosters self-direct learning, effective problem solving, communication, and also collaboration skills. It also promotes active learning, as it is usually carried out with groups of students, typically in a tutorial or seminar setting. Other than that, problem-based learning also allows the students to be in charge of their own learning. As we all know, every individual is unique in their own way. Despite the fact that most curriculum is developed in a one-size-fits-all method, teachers have to remember that learners is not all the same. Everybody comes from a variety of background. The way they work, the way they think, the way they perceive new knowledge are not the same. So, through problem-based learning, they should be allowed to work on their dream, wonder, and imagine, and allowed to design, which can help them to be a critical thinker. Besides that, allowing the students to solve real-world problems can help to shape their lifelong learning skill, which later will be useful in their daily life. By applying problem-based learning strategy in our class, students get to know what they are learning actually have values and meaning that can be applied in the real world. So, where did problem-based learning come from? What is the story behind problem-based learning? Basically, it all started in the 1950s. In the 1950s, the medical students were provided with the real-world problem to be solved. They were given with patient condition and medical history. Later, they have to diagnose the patient and provide them with the most suitable treatment according to their medical condition. Their problem-based learning later made its way to other training fields such as law and business. And finally, in the 1960s, it made its way to the educational field. So now, what is the difference between the traditional teaching, which has been widely used since forever, and the problem-based learning teaching strategy? The main characteristic of problem-based learning is that it involves open-ended questions. This will provoke a series of serious thinking among the students, which will allow them to acquire new knowledge independently, which means they are the one who is in charge of their own learning. They are the one who know what kind of knowledge that they are looking for. But then, what happened to the teachers? What are they gonna do? In problem-based learning, the teacher will work only as a facilitator, which will help to guide the students through their journey of acquiring new knowledge. They have to work in group to solve the problems. So, the teachers will take a backstage role during the activity. Their involvement is usually limited to guiding and monitoring the learning process. Another characteristic of problem-based learning is that it involves real-world problem that is chosen based on the student's interests. This will provide the students with authentic application of the content and skills that will be useful in their later life, especially when they are working. Unlike the traditional teaching strategy, which focus only on the rote learning, there is fixed learning outcome is expected from all the students. Even the scope of the content is fixed and narrow, which then result to a very boring learning experience. So, how does problem-based learning work? How can we as teachers implement problem-based learning in our class? Basically, there are 4 phases involved in problem-based learning. The first part is the part where we have to present and identify the problem. But what can we do to identify the problem to be solved? Firstly, the problem needs to be thoroughly researched and carefully crafted by the teachers. It may or may not involve the students' participation. It may include student topic interest survey or even brainstorming session about the relevant issue in the field. Phase number 2. This is the phase where the students develop a plan to solve the problem that has been presented earlier on. At this phase, the students are expected to work collaboratively with their peers on how to solve the problem. Through research, students have to come up with ideas on how to solve the problem. Then, they have to discuss the idea and expand on them. What about the teachers? What is teachers' role in facilitating the students' learning? At this phase, the teacher can ask critical thinking questions that lead the students to analyze the situation and possible solution in a more depth view. Then come the third phase. This is the implementation of the plan phase. For the third phase, the plan will be tested out to see if the problem can be solved. The group should discuss the merits of pursuing each of the different solutions presented in the brainstorming session. Some things to consider would be about how large the impact would be, how relevant the solution is to the problem, how feasible it is, and how interested in it the students are. Then come the last phase of the implementation of the problem-based learning. During this phase, we evaluate the implementation of the problem-based learning. Here, the students will analyze the result and reflect on the whole learning process. The main point of this phase is about reflecting. Students and teachers reflect on learning, the effectiveness of their inquiry and problem activities, the quality of the students' work, the obstacles that they have to face throughout the learning, and also how to overcome the problems that they face.
Now, let us see an example of the implementation of problem-based learning in class. This is Maslina. She is an English teacher. Today, she's supposed to teach about interview skills. But using the normal teaching practice would be very boring, isn't it? So, she decided to go for the problem-based learning strategy. She started with looking out for the possible problem to be solved by the students. Then she presented the problem to the class. After presenting the problem to the class, she led the students to do their research and discuss among them on how to solve the problem. They are allowed to use all the resources that they have around them in solving the problem. Here, we can see Maslina guide the students for their learning process. And now, the students share the results of their findings. They discuss on the pros and cons of the solution. At the final phase, Maslina asks the students to write up their reflection. This is important as their learning process can be evaluated through the reflection.
So basically, problem-based learning involves the process of solving authentic real-world problem as the learning process. It is a fusion of real-world problem and the human system. Students have to focus on solving the problem, but they don't really have to come up with any new product